morning. We'll wait just a couple minutes, right? I think people are still trickling from this. So I think that the slides are actually back here. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, and then we'll talk about the history of Godly Play. And then I'm going to actually do a sample story for you for adults, which we'll talk about in a moment. Like I said, my name is Nanette Popa. I grew up here in Asheville. My family moved here when I was in middle school. I'm an Asheville High graduate and a very proud Camp Henry camper and counselor. I went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and I have a bachelor's degree in religious studies and international and global studies minor and Spanish. And I have not used my Spanish in a very, very long time, but I did study abroad in Peru, which was unbelievable. After UNCG, which is not on here, I got a teaching certification at UNCA and did my student teaching at Inca, and then immediately moved to Florida for a year, and then Texas, and then Florida, and now we moved back. So we've been all over the place. I did my master's. So during COVID, I thought to myself, well, I got a lot of time on my hands. And so I enrolled in a master's program through distance education at the University of Florida. We were living in Florida at the time, in educational technology and curriculum and instruction. I was teaching middle school at the time, which I did for 8 years. And it was an amazing program. And the day before classes started, we found out we were expecting this one. So the first year of the program, I was pregnant and teaching full time. The second year, I had a newborn, and we just did it. I did it with the help of my husband, which was amazing. This is my husband, Dustin. And then in 2024, we had Cecilia, our youngest daughter, who you've probably seen around. She's 16 months old. Just adorable. And so I have been here well, I've known Debbie Cox since I was 15 from Camp Henry. And then I have been here working at Trinity since February of 2023 with Debbie and Beth, which has been amazing, getting to know them and getting to know the program. And it's truly the career change that I wanted and needed from classroom teaching. I still get to teach one day a week, and I get to do the things that I love, combining my passions for education and religion. And so, if you have any questions, please stop. All right, so I will give you the background on Godly Play. So we're going to share from this computer and change the language. Okay. So Godly Play is a program that has been developed over many, many years. I think they started in the 1980s. And I know it was before I was born, so we'll just say that. It was developed by the Reverend Dr. Jerome Berryman, who eventually became an Episcopal priest after changing denominations, but he worked in theology of childhood, was his exclusive kind of interest. And he did so much work to kind of develop this field and lots of research into it. And as part of this, he and his wife developed an approach to religious and spiritual education for children we call Godly Play, which we've used here. They studied at the Maria Montessori Institute in Italy. It's based in Montessori methods and practices. And it is a really special and beautiful method that kind of is based on respect of children. Children are full and complete human beings that are sure born without life experience or language, but they have this divine imprint, this innate spirituality that we just need to figure out how to talk to them about it. We do that through storytelling, through wondering, through exploration, through this kind of safe space, which we'll get into more in a minute here. And we've used this Godly Play curriculum, because it is a curriculum, for over 20 years. Click for me, thank you. So the core principles of Godly Play, which I've kind of touched on already, is that children have an innate spirituality. We are born as people that want to know God and want to know the divine, no matter our age, location, any of that. The mentor, the storyteller, the teacher, as we call them, are storytellers. and they are also guides, is how we think of them. Storytelling is done from the heart. It is done with simple props and simple layout, and it's told simply, and it's told really in a beautiful way. The storyteller sits on the floor, tells the story to the children, and then encourages them to reflect. Wondering questions do not have a right answer. It's not a wondering question if it's a yes or no or a right or wrong. So we ask similar questions depending on the genre of story for each one of them. Which part do you think is most important? What part where do you see yourself in the story? Is there anything that we could leave out and still have all the story we need? And we get a whole host of answers, which are sometimes funny and sometimes so astute. So for example, last week, I don't know, is Tina here? No, last week I told the story of the Holy Family. So we have a crush on the vocal shelf in the classroom. And the story, you pick up each piece and you say, this is the Mother Mary, and she was about to have a baby, and this is the donkey she rode, and here is Joseph and the wise men. And you do the whole thing, and you say, I wonder what's the most important part of the Holy Family. And a fourth grade boy says, it's Mother Mary, because without her, there would be no baby Jesus. Bingo! Because like obviously it's the right answer, but it is a very interesting point, right? But nobody else wanted to answer after that. You are right, absolutely. He's reflecting on the story, right? Then we have some response teams. We call it work. The work of childhood is play, right? So everything in the Godly Play classroom, we remind the children, is for you. There's nothing that you can't touch. There's nothing that you can't play with. There's nothing too sacred for you to hold. And they have so many options. They can play and retell the story. So some kids choose to hold those figures and look at them and think about it. Some kids choose to play and build with blocks or crosses or Legos. Some kids choose to make art that's either related or not. And the adults in the room are very hands-off. It's very child-led. It's very much, we respect you, know what you need to do. And we get some really good and really deep questions. And sometimes the answer is, I wonder about that too. I don't know, right? Because I don't have a PhD in theology. I'm not a priest. And sometimes the answer is, I'm going to go ask Amy or Mother Scott, and I'll let you know. If you were a priest, you would definitely know the answer. And sometimes I say, maybe we could look that up and do that too. And it's been, thank you. So the structure of a Godly Play lesson, which we talked about a little bit before. So we start with a welcome and greeting. In the classrooms downstairs, if you haven't been, please come visit us anytime. We'll talk about it in a minute. There's a person seated at the door, they're the doorkeeper. There's a person seated on the floor on the circle, and they are the storyteller. One of the main tenets of Godly Play is to not over-adult the classroom. So we ask parents to say goodbye at the door. Once you cross that threshold, it is a sacred space for children. So the door person greets them and they say, good morning, we're so happy you're here. Where would you like to sit? Sometimes the littler kids, we say, look, there's a spot for you right here. They start in a circle. They talk about their week, they talk about their day, and when the lesson starts, the storyteller says, the Lord be with you. And that's how we move into the sacred time. Then we do some getting ready. And this is really dependent on the teacher, mentor, storyteller, how you want to get ready. But my getting ready is always 3 deep breaths, which we'll do in a moment. 3 deep breaths and getting our body into a place to hear the word of God. Then we tell the story. The curriculum is, as a curriculum person, unbelievable. The scripts are beautiful. The words are carefully chosen. It spirals so that you hear the same stories, including Old Testament stories, New Testament stories. We have some lessons that are we call them enrichment lessons. And so they're about people of color that have had a great impact on the church. There are all kinds of lessons that are just stunning. And so we're at the beginning of the year. We started with the Circle of the Church year. And for example, right in the middle is hearing the story of creation today, which is told in a linear fashion with beautiful, and I would have brought it except they're using it, with beautiful tiles that you lay out for each of the days. Then you do the wondering question, which I've already touched on. They have time to respond to the story in whatever way they want. Touching the story, talking to somebody else, making a craft, doing something. Then we have a feast, which is 2 crackers and 2 ounces of water. But a feast can be anything because we're breaking bread together. So we sit down for feast, we say a prayer, and I was really impressed last week. I said, is there anybody that would like to share a prayer that you know and we can all do together, or you're welcome to pray from the heart, which is hard. And 3 or 4 kids wanted to share their prayer from the heart, which was so beautiful. And you could just tell the things that were in their mind that they shared with us. Lots of prayers for pets and time together, and community and siblings. It was so special to hear that. After the feast, we light our Christ candle and then we change the light, right? You don't blow it out because the light of Christ is all around us, the Holy Spirit you can't see, change it into smoke as a reminder. And then the storyteller does something that is really, really special. He or she calls each student by name and gives them a blessing. And it's really up to the storyteller what they want to say. So for example, I could say, Amy, thank you so much for being here today. Your wondering was so thoughtful, and the way that you thought about Mary carrying Jesus was something that you could, or something like that. Or, you know, Jerry, you worked really hard on your craft today, and I can tell that you were paying close attention and you did a good job cleaning. Thank you for being here. And at first, the kids get a little uncomfortable and don't want to make eye contact. And by class 3 or 4, they're ready for their they are super ready. They want their hair cut. They want their and it's interesting to see how the community grows and the comfort level grows during 8 years. So the classroom is incredibly well thought out, not by me, but by the Godly Play youth. And there is a very specific arrangement to all of the shelves, which look like a lot of things in the room, and did, the way it's laid out. So we always sit in a circle on the same level. So you could do Godly Play on tables. You could do Godly Play on the floor like we do. You could do Godly Play anywhere that you are kind of on the same level in a circle to build this feeling of community and equality. I'm on the floor, everyone's on the floor. We use simple hands-on materials. Sometimes they're handmade. You can buy them from the Godly Play Institute, and they're wooden figures that we move. There's felt, there's sand. There's a whole desert box, which is unbelievable. This big box of sand, and you tell the story of people traveling through the desert on the desert stories, and the sand is just, you see the footprints and the tracks. It's amazing. The kids love the desert box. We tell the kids that when we come to Godly Play, we enter different. We talk a little bit more quietly. We act a little bit more respectfully. This threshold is set apart for these holy stories. And does that mean that we never have disruptions? Absolutely not. But when most of the kids are, even the little ones, are kind of seeing other people and modeling the adults kind of speaking more quietly, being more respectful, concentrating, it does eliminate a lot of issues, which as a classroom teacher for 8 years, I heard this in my training and was like, yeah, right. But there's like 8, 10, 12 kids too, so it's a smaller community. And not to bore you with classroom management, it's actually called supporting the circle of children. There are methods that we take to kind of de-escalate kids that need a little bit of extra attention. In the classroom, children kind of move at their own pace. We remind them to just kind of slow down, but nothing is hurried, nothing is rushed. We have all the time we need, we tell them, which is a nice reminder. So like I said, we have 2 adults in the classroom, the storyteller tells the story from the heart, leaves the wondering questions, leads the feast. And the door person, people always kind of discredit. The door person is a co-teacher. They are just as important, sometimes more so, being in the room. They greet people, they support the circle of children, they keep an eye out if somebody needs a little extra attention, a little extra support. They maintain the environment, they maintain the art shelves and the snack and have people come and help with whatever they need. And the adults in the room all understand that this is a space for children that we are being invited into. We have set it up for them, but it is their space. There's not many places that are for kids. And this is a place that is for them. So we model that by modeling how we would want them to see us. If they came into a room that we were in, good morning, Pamela, how are you? How was your week? I'm Nanette, right? And of course, our children might not be that enthusiastic, but we do want to say their name. We want to ask about them, make sure they know who they are. And we want to make sure that when they're talking, we respond to that. We heard what they said. Even if sometimes a 3-year-old says something that you're like, I don't understand what you said. You say like something along the lines of, can you tell that to me in a different way? Or, oh, I wonder about that too. Or what an interesting point, or something like that. So that we model this respect for talking, right? And for giving us your idea. We have a big team of volunteers that make Godly Play possible here at Trinity, from people that are in the classrooms. Every week we need 2 adults per classroom, 3 classrooms that we have separated into preschool. So potty trained 3-year-olds through preschool, kindergarten through 2nd, and 3rd through 5th grade. And as you move up, you hear the same stories, but in slightly different ways. So the way that a 3-year-old hears the story of creation is not the same way that a 5th grader hears it, because they are building on that story that they've already heard. They also get different response materials. So for example, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders get to use glue guns, which you would think is they won the lottery. Anything that can be hot glued, they are on it. They're like, glue gun. What can you make? And so it is all made possible by our volunteers. Maybe one more slide. Yeah. So I hope you can answer this question so far. Why does it? Because we are encouraging children to make meaning rather than memorizing answers, right? So Dr. Jerome Berriman, founder of Godly Play, said that we are teaching children the sacred history of the Christian language. So if you were to, and maybe this is you, maybe you've been in this position, if you were to come and you were to say, I think I'd like to visit Trinity. I think I'd like to see what that church is about, but I don't have any background in religion. I don't know, maybe I grew up in a Buddhist community, and you come to Trinity and everybody knows the words and everybody knows where to go to find it. And everybody knows when to sit, stand, and kneel. That's gotta feel isolating. And so Godly Play starts with young children and says, there's room for everybody. And we're going to teach you some of the words, and we're going to continue to practice, and we're here to help and guide you. I hope and I think that we also equip adults and parents, and hopefully all of you now, to also support children in that way, right? They're learning, just as you would teach them to wash their hands after they use the restroom. Now we stand, go ahead and kneel, sit down. This is the page where the hymn is found. And so we're not telling them to memorize, we're asking them to think deeply about these concepts and to become part of this community that they're already a part of, right? They are born into it and they're people. We're just giving them language. We nurture imagination and deep listening. Sometimes, and more than sometimes, you have to hear these stories over and over, and you can watch them on YouTube and they're phenomenal, but you hear the story, you watch it once and you're like, that was beautiful. You watch it again and you hear something different, see something different, or you feel something different, and we tell them, you hear the story again because you're not the same person who you were when you heard it last. So we kind of continue to reinforce that. Their imaginations run wild, especially with glue guns, like I said, but with all of the art supplies and things like that, we are hopeful, and it has been proven in other churches and other places that we are building a foundation for lifelong spiritual practice, right? It is personal, it's beautiful, it's something that we hope that you will continue to nurture in your children and yourselves. Time for silence, time for reading, time for play, time for conversation. And by doing that, we're hoping to support the whole family here. We equip parents with the wondering pages, with the parent handouts, have wondering questions. Our children's church hour is aligned to the readings, and we encourage parents to ask, what did you hear in Godly Play today? I think there is one more slide before the story. Yes, so how can you help? Asking open-ended questions about the story that they heard in Godly Play is really important, but sometimes can be met with, I don't know, which is fine because they do hear it and they do know. And the fact that you say, hey, tell me more about the Holy Family, or tell me about the creation story, or what part of that did you like, might be something that kind of piques their interest. You have to respect the silence. It's really uncomfortable when you hear, like, how was your day? You know, but they are processing it because my daughter Eliza is 4, she's in Goldy Play 1, and we heard the circle, somebody told her the circle of the church here on kickoff Sunday, and like last week, randomly, we were doing something with markers and she's like, I want green and purple and red. Oh my gosh, it's the circle of the church here. Colors are in church. And I was like, gosh, they are. So they're thinking about it. Yeah. Well, every once in a while, I was doing a training and I had to present the baptism lesson. And the other day I hear her kind of like off the living room and I hear her going, I baptize you in the name of the Father. What is she doing? She's like, Mommy. Water. They really do process it, even if it's not right away. We are always welcoming volunteer storytellers or for people. I understand it could feel intimidating, but I would welcome you anytime to visit the classroom, observe a class. Some of the rooms are quite small, but you are always welcome to have observers. If you're interested in that, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. There are some specific parameters we ask of you, like not to engage with the children while you're observing, almost like a fly on the wall, and then we can kind of go from there. But it is beautiful and very special. Amy, will you put that? Yes, okay, you can just leave that. Does anybody have questions about Godly Play? Okay,
Question is, not about Godly Play. What happens in middle school and high school? I know
so I did work with middle schoolers and high schoolers. So middle school and high school, they move up and down over to the youth room. And Amy and Debbie and a team of people are working on curriculum for that. So each year there's a theme. I've been out of it for like months now, so I don't know. Each year, I'm looking at Amy too, like, oh, each year there's a theme that we focus on with lessons in a similar format of conversation. And they have their own kind of setup, but it's conversation-based, relational. Last year we did Old Testament in middle school. Last year we did Old Testament in middle school, so this year should be New Testament in middle school. And I didn't teach the high school, so I'm not sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else?
I just want to say too that because my kids just are new and they've been the last couple years, but Mason was just talking about how much he loves.
I really miss
And I love Miss Debbie. It was really cute too because he was just like, it's really fun.
I told Amy on kickoff Sunday, I was so sad because I saw Mason and we had lunch together. It was so nice. And I was like, I just wanted to know about Japan. And I really like somebody else's Alaska cruise. But I know, and I have to figure out a way to like that more anyway. He can come volunteer children about it. And he love it. Yeah. Great. The trip was good though. Good. Okay. Good. All right. So this is not a typical Godly Play lesson. We're borrowing a couple of Godly Play materials, but when I did, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, all mentors, some more than others at Trinity right now, we're working on it, should be trained in Godly Play curriculum. It's a 6-week, 3-hour a week commitment. It's very big. That is just the basic core training. And when I did my core training, when I was applying for this position, one of the trainers had presented this lesson to us. Godly Play lessons are told from the heart. This lesson will not be told from the heart because it's long and I just need some notes because I'm nervous. But this is about
It's still coming from
it's
your.
coming from my heart. It's not coming from my mouth. Completely. So this is a lesson for adults. And it's in the style of Godly Play. So if we were in a classroom, we would be in a circle. And one of the things that's kind of different about storytelling and Godly Play that you might not notice is the storyteller goes what we call into the story. So rarely does the storyteller look up from their materials because they want the student to also focus their attention on the story. Some trainers will talk about getting bumped out, if something weird happens in the classroom, you get bumped out of the story and then sometimes it's hard to get back in. So that's the reason that we try and kind of keep it like this. So for example, last week I was telling a story and we had a student that was, or a kid that was new, and she grabbed a piece of the story and she's like, and I was like, whoa, wait, what do I do? And I was just like, oh, you have a chance to and so put it back, and it was completely fine. She didn't know, but I was just like, that is what that looks like. So if we were in a Godly Play class, we would be in a circle, and we're going to pretend like we're in a Godly Play class. This is again a story for adults and in the style of Godly Play. So I would say, good morning. I'm Nanette. Welcome to Godly Play. And this morning we're going to hear a story about the theology of childhood. But first, we need to get ready. So a way to get ready is we're going to take 3 deep breaths together, in through our nose and out through our mouths. 1, 2, 3. Now check in with your body, make sure that you're sitting in a way that's comfortable, that you can hear me. We'll go ahead and get started. Some people believe that children come to us as a tabula rasa, or a blank slate, an empty void with nothing imprinted upon it. And our role as adults and parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles is to spend our days writing all over this blank slate. The rules of life, how you behave and what to do, and sometimes how to feel about everything, even about God. But is this what we should do with children? Is this the truth? Are they a blank slate? It's true that children are born without language and without life experience, and part of our responsibility is to provide for the child. We see to their social needs, their emotional needs, their cognitive development, and of course, their physical needs. We, as people of faith, though, see that there is a hidden dimension to the lives of children. They're born with this divine imprint. It's not something we can see or measure. It's not like hair color or height or weight, but we know that it's there. The divine imprint is written upon your soul deep within you, and it's something along the lines of, you belong to me, I belong to you. Gertrude Mueller Nelson writes in her book, To Dance with God, about her 3-year-old daughter. Some years ago, I spent an afternoon caught up in a piece of sewing I was doing. There was a wastebasket near my sewing machine, and it was filled with scraps of fabric that I had cut. away from my project. The basket of discards was a fascination to my daughter, Annika. She rooted through the scraps and searched out the long, bright strips, collected them, and brought them to the garden. When I found her later, she was sitting in the grass with a pole. She had affixed the scraps to the top of the pole, and she said, "I'm making a banner for a procession. I need a procession so that God will come down and dance with us." Once with that, she solemnly lifted her banner to flutter in the wind, and she began to dance. Gertrude Mueller Nelson says, "I was allowed to witness a holy moment, and I learned all over again how strong and real that sense of wonder is that children have. How innate and easy their play is with the sacred." Here, religion was literally child's play. Children don't want to know about God. They want to know God. As we grow older, other things crowd out our natural inborn connection to the sacred. What was once spontaneous is now replaced with the serious busyness of life. We, as mature adults, acquire more complicated thinking patterns, richer vocabulary, a thirst for new things, and a better and fuller life with a different set of priorities. We fill our lives with all kinds of things. Our lives with entertainment, sports, okay, games, wealth, money, in the pursuit of it, status, right? Being cool, it's all about me. The pursuit of good grades, accomplishment, awards, and being cool, part of the in crowd, having the right stuff, right? Fitting in. These are the things that compete for the attention and engagement of our children each and every day. The problem is, these are not the things that answer the big questions. These will not answer those big questions in our lives. All people, no matter their age, have these existential boundaries that frame our lives, just like these four corners here. They are part of what it means to be human. The questions or boundaries are the same whether we're 2 or 22, 52, 102. The first one is aloneness. We are born into the world alone, and we leave the world alone. Even if we are born a twin, no one else lives inside of our skin. We can feel alone even in a crowd. And we feel freedom. What does it mean to be truly free? Can we do anything we want? At different points in our lives, we run across a lack of freedom, a threat of freedom, the joy of freedom. The lack, no, you can't, because I said so. The threat of and the joy of freedom. The threat is, if you do that, you'll have to leave. Your actions have consequences. Or the joy, here are the car keys. Go and play. Enjoy your vacation. Meaning. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? What do I do? What should I do now? What should I do with my life? What does it all mean? What is my purpose? Ultimately, death. So the fact that we all know or all learn at a certain point, ultimately, we will face the unknown in death. If the world's call is so loud and persistent and these existential issues are so big, how can we help our children find their way now and when we are no longer at their side? What is the best way for children to remember this divine imprint? This, you belong to me, I belong to you. Well, we give them religious language. We can give them the stories of the Bible and our religious traditions that have sustained people's spirits for generations. These stories are how children can learn to cope with anxiety generated by the world around them, and they will be able to take comfort in a growing awareness of the long history of God's loving presence. Our faith story gives us our identity. These stories help us to know who we are in the bigger story. Religious language is more than just words, it's also objects, gestures, time, space, and silence. Children will learn that they are as many as the stars in the sky and as many as the grains of sand in the desert. They will know, lo, I am with you, even at the end of the age, and they will discover the good shepherd. I know each of my sheep by name. The good shepherd who leads us to the good green grass and still fresh water, and will go anywhere to find us in times of danger. They will learn of community. Community offers us a sense of belonging. The first community that we know is our family. At best, families are a place where we are not just acknowledged, but we are valued, accepted, and beloved. Family is the place that they accept you even if you're angry or sad or silly or shy. Family is the community where you share your greatest joys and your deepest sorrows. It should be a place where many of our beloved, this should be a place where you can try on roles, learn new skills, come into your own, and even when we are very old and many of our beloved family has passed away, many of us remember who we were in that first place of belonging. The larger community that we can offer our children is church, a faith family. At its best, it can also be a place where we learn who our authentic self truly is. We discover our gifts, where we are welcomed and valued as part of the community. Here we share our greatest joys and deepest sorrows. In the church, we can ask the hard questions and seek together. For children, play is truly essential for healthy development. As adults, we try to understand and perhaps remember what play really is. But play has 4 components that are really important. Play is voluntary. It's done for fun. It's not done for any other reason. If someone asks you to play and you don't want to, they can't make you. Play is done for its own sake, like collecting cool rocks from my daughter here. Play is pleasurable. It's something that you really like to do and something that interests you. And play requires deep concentration. It's very absorbing and has a lot of elements that you may not see on the outside. Play has deep connections with language learning, problem solving, social roles, and creativity. Sometimes children play games as if they were just driving a truck that looked like a unicorn. Sometimes they play, what if? What if this butterfly was big enough to ride and it would let me take a ride on its wings? What if everyone was nice to each other all the time? This kind of play is important to us as Christians because isn't that what we need to imagine the kingdom of God? Present. Our presence, when we show children how to do things and stand aside as they do them themselves. Sometimes we are simply present as companions. Other times we journey alongside children as we listen and watch for the larger presence. The presence of the divine and elusive mystery of God. In godly play, we have a deep respect for children. We believe that children know what they know, even if they don't yet have the language to say it. We don't treat them as objects for our amusement, even when they say things that are amusing. Sometimes we can only stand beside them in the moment as they search for that divine presence. Children will have many opportunities, activities, and adventures as they grow. Some of them will include these things: being connected, making money, playing games, getting awards and good grades, status. But what we expect and hope will fill their lives are the things that help them find direction for themselves and purpose and meaning to know who they truly are and to stay connected to God. These things support and nourish the hidden spiritual dimension of the lives of children, so they will be able to invite God to come and dance with them all the days of their lives. So if we were in a Catholic play class, I would then ask you, I wonder which part of the story you liked best. And sometimes we have to be comfortable in the silence to allow people to answer. I'm really asking you. But we don't call on people. Rosemary.
Dancing with God.
I'm dancing with God. I haven't read the book yet, but I would love to. I think I like that part too. Anybody else would like to share what part they liked best?
Community.
Community, very important. A third place, right? We've got home, we've got work, we've got church.
I really loved it.
Divine imprint, right? I don't think any of us would argue that that's not there, right? The Spirit, Holy Spirit working within us, God, however, whatever word you want to put to it, born, made in the image of God. I wonder if this will impact the way that you interact with a child in your life or the children that you work with. What might be? Take some time to think about.
I'd like to share.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm Nanette. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Kate,
Kate, so nice to meet you.
thank you. We're here because our daughter, she's 12, has expressed this interest to know God. And we've never been to church, so
Amazing.
I'm really feeling your story, because it's like within her wanting to really,
Divine imprint.
yeah.
How come that you reach it? How great.
7. We're friends with the Shield, so she's with Mason.
So you're in good hands. I do wonder if she would feel open to coming to hear a godly play story.
I was just thinking, I wish she could hear this.
It's recorded, I'll send it to you, don't worry, we got it.
Good.
I do wonder if she would like to hear a godly play theory because it's shorter and less stuff and very interesting. So she might feel weird in the room with like third, fourth, and fifth graders, but
She probably would, she likes being with young children.
perfect, but we'll talk about it, thank you. And I wonder if there's any part of this that you would like to explore further with me or.
Can you come do this? Say about me that I'm like, I just always be.
The stories are innate though, we all need stories and we hear them. And I was in my interview going, I love Goblin Play and I'm telling you, the stories are so beautiful and they spoke to me and I'm like, I drank the Goblin Play Kool-Aid, it's just, I know we're working on a lesson series event, which has a beautiful cycle of lessons. So we will, Godly Play is not going anywhere, believe me. It's coming. So we've got just about 10 minutes, which we've reserved for any questions you might have. I can pop up my contact information on the website. I'm sorry, the slide here. If you have questions about Godly Play, about life, about anything social, a social call, I'm open to all of it. How did you find your way to Camp Henry? So when we moved here, it was the summer before 8th grade, and my mom, who is a wonderful person, was researching summer camps. And she was like, they need to make some friends before school starts. And I don't remember how she had heard about it, but somebody like in a grocery store was like, oh, there's a great camp on Hampton. So she called, this is like 2003, before the days of the internet being widely used like that. She called and they were like, the session starts in 2 days. You want to send them? And she was like, yeah. And from the moment I set foot at Lake Logan, and in all seriousness, I'm 36 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday, the air felt different. It is a thin place, which I did not have language for until after that camp session. It is closer to heaven at Lake Logan. And there's just something about it from the minute I got there, not knowing anybody. My sister came with me, which was really nice, but not knowing anybody, I was totally hooked. And I lived for my camp friends. I was so excited. And I was raised Catholic. And so I would go to St. Eugene and I was really involved, but I always kind of felt like something was a little off and like a little missing. I would say to my parents things like, if God made everyone, like, why would he not like some people? Or like, why would he think that that's not okay? My parents would, oh no, we don't believe that. But like, we still went to Catholic church, which was, and so I studied religion in college. And when I was at Greensboro, I was like, I really miss camp. And my mom is like, apply to be on staff. I was like, I won't get it. I don't know. And I applied and it was like an amazing interview. And Ian Williams was my director. And he is now a priest and it's just amazing. But to this day, my very, very best friend in the world will be ordained as a priest on September 20th in New York. And she and I met working at camp. And so it's really special. Yeah, really, Camp Henry is one of my absolute favorite places on the planet. Yeah.
So you kind of spoke this already with Kate, but like if our kids came in after the age of Godly Play, what's the best way for them to be enriched by? I mean, I know even in the sanctuary.
October 26th.
Is it quarterly that you come in?
I think twice a year right now.
Twice a year, okay.
Is what we're going for
So
my
they still
first
get,
year.
like, experience through that, but if there's any other ways for them to.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one of those, I don't know, and I'll talk to Amy about it because we have talked about that. Also, it is even if your kids went through Golden Play, it is a bit of a hard transition. I mean, middle school is hard. I've taught middle school for 8 years. It's hard for anybody, truly. And so that transition from like this structure of Godly Play into this, similar but different kind of looser structure is also different. So that is something that we have talked about, but I'll bring it to my supervisor.
Well, I will say we have at least 2 teenagers who work with the young kids on Sunday mornings and are
Thank you.
in the Godly Play classrooms. And I think that that's a possibility for any of your teenagers.
That is true, as long as they're willing to commit to like actually learning the story from
Right.
the word.
Yeah,
It does take some training and it does take some commitment. Nancy's grandson Colin is one of our storytellers. I just love him. But they're absolutely welcome and I think you get the full effect of Godly Play from doing the story. It's just in a different way too, like you interact with it differently than you would if you were in the classroom.
and you called out October 26th, but I'm not sure everybody in the new room knew what you were talking.
Oh, sorry, there's an everybody upstairs Sunday that we just scheduled for
Which
October
is, when is
26th.
an everybody upstairs
It
Sunday?
is this year, it's a children's service. Our kids will be reading and singing, and we're gonna do Godly Play in a big way. And we'll tell you a Godly Play story upstairs.
I really enjoyed it.
Good, thanks. Well, I hope mine is good. Beth is a very hard act to follow. She's an incredible mentor. So I'm hopeful that I can do her proud. Thank you. Any other questions? We got like 4 or 5 minutes. Thank you all so much for coming. I truly appreciate it. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. I'm here Sunday through Thursday. Thank you. Oh, if we were in Godly Play, we would have a snuffer. Tell you that we're now going to change the light. And you can see, I don't know if it'll work as well without the snuffer here, but you'll see that the light will turn into smoke and it will come all around us. Go. And then at the end of Godly Play, we say, go in peace. Thank you.